Mark Levin has had better arguments about impropriety in the election than pretty much anyone. And it is frustrating to me, shameful to me, that Republicans went down rabbit holes chasing salacious, fabricated claims about rigged voting machines, and they ignored what Mark Levin was telling them to focus on. I don't think the election was stolen in the way that they weren't shifting votes around. But I don't think it is disputable that Democrats did use activist judges to change rules of the game. And we were told in 2000, we were told in 2004, we were told in 2008, we were told in 2012, we were told in 2016, we were told in 2018, we were told in 2020 that Supreme Court precedent says you can't change the rules in the middle of the game. And you can't. And yet, using the pandemic, there were secretaries of state and judges who were allowing things to happen that shouldn't have happened. It was the President Trump's Department of Homeland Security who recommended drop boxes for people to be able to drop off absentee ballots and not have to mail them back to boards of election. You can just drop them there. You don't need a stamp. It was secretaries of state who were sending out ballots to everyone, absentee ballots, whether they wanted them or not, even in states that did not have the procedures in place, like Oregon and Colorado have always done vote by mail, or is it Colorado? Oregon, for sure, they've always done vote by mail. They've got the procedures in place. Republicans, actually, we know the data over the last number of years that even the Republicans, those states appreciate the integrity, but then you got a state like Nevada, where they've never done it before, and suddenly the Secretary of State says, hey, I'm going to do this now. That's not stealing the election. It is cheating. And the Republicans did not respond well. There was an ineptitude to the Republican response. I would be more infuriated about it if it really looked to me like the Republicans did a good job fighting, and they didn't listen to Mark Levin. And, you know, Mark Levin's got a constitutional law background. Now, several judges, Trump-appointed judges, federal judges, looked at the issues and said, you know, this isn't outside the constitutional structure. The Constitution says that state legislatures determine how the electors will be chosen, and part of Mark's argument is that they laid out the process, and these unelected people were changing the process, and that should be unconstitutional. These Trump-appointed judges disagreed with him. I think Mark's actually more right than wrong. I lean towards where Mark is on this, but those judges said otherwise. The judges said, well, the legislature says electoral college by popular vote. The rest of this is just the procedure for getting the popular vote. I think that's too much quibbling by the judges. But, you know, I respect the rule of law and what the judges said. But I think this is a big issue that Republicans have to address in the future. And I think it's got to be addressed in states like Georgia, where the Republicans control the legislature and the governor's mansion. And I think it's got to be addressed in states like Pennsylvania, where they control the legislature. They don't control the governor's mansion. But surely there must be some leeway there with them, or they need to fight in 2 years and take the governor's mansion and address it. The fact of the matter is there are laws that legislatures put in place that govern the procedures, and Democrats are too often able to go find Democrat-appointed judges to hit the brakes on it. So, for example, there's a great example in Georgia. In Georgia, it was the Democrats in the late 1990s that required cleaning up the rolls. And after the 2000 election, George Bush versus Al Gore, the Democrats in Georgia amplified in the law the requirements that the Secretary of State really has no discretion in the matter, and every off-year election you must clear out the voter rolls of people who haven't voted in 8 consecutive years or 8 consecutive elections. And everyone was perfectly fine and hunky-dory with everything being done that way until the state flipped and the Republicans took power. And then the Democrats who had written the law went to Democratic judges appointed by Barack Obama and said, wait, this is unacceptable. This thing that we've been doing this whole time is now unacceptable because we're losing. I got a problem with that. And I think that Republicans, it frustrates me, they listen to the Dominion voter crack and BS instead of listening to Mark Levin.